Theruvan Saranai Swamin Wahanse. Welcome everyone to the meditation session. Just a gentle reminders of when we start the session. Can we all please mute the microphones, and when you need to ask a question, of course, you can unmute them. And if you like to ask the questions directly, you can ask the questions directly, or otherwise you can type the questions to the chat box. During the question and answer time, we will check the questions. And also, yeah, I think that's it. So I will hand it over to the monks. So let's to begin the session. Theruvan Saranai Swamin Wahanse, I would like to invite you to begin the session. Avasarai.
Theruvan Saranai, everyone. So today also we are going to have a meditation session. And last week we had a meditation session, and in that meditation session, our main aim was to do the Vayo Kasina, and at the latter part of it, we went on with Metta meditation. So in this session also, in the initial part, we will discuss the necessary things that will be needed for the meditation session. And last week, we decided that we'll have this Asubha meditation. And as I said in the last session, there are 4 types of meditation, mainly broadly can be categorized into 4 types. And these are actually to get rid of Raga, Dvesha, and Moha, the defilements we have in our system. So to get rid of Raga, we have Asubha meditation. To get rid of Dvesha, we have Metta meditation, what we practiced last week. And when we are confused and don't understand what to do, there's the Buddhanusati. And when we are lazy to start, when there's no effort to start, we go for Marananusati. So there's Marananusati, Buddhanusati, Methanusati, and Asubhanusati. So last time we focused on Methanusati, and we'll have a little bit of understanding about Methanusati today as well, and then we'll move on to Asubhanusati. And today's meditation session will have 3 parts. Initial part, we will calm our minds using Vidarshana, Vipassana, as well as this breathing meditation, where we would be focusing on the quality of air. And in the next part, we will be focusing on Metta meditation. And again, at the latter part, we will be focusing on Asubha meditation. So if I would draw you the way how we would be doing this Metta meditation. So initial part, we would be spreading Metta. So we to the front side like this, and on the either side of the front like this, here, this area. And again, this is depending on the person, depending on the directions of ourselves. So we are saying these directions relative to us. So this is the right side, and these are the either side of the right side, and this is the back side or behind, and this is the either side of the back, and again it goes like this. This is the left side and the other side, the left. So it covers all the horizontal plane. And there's two more planes that are left. That is the plane that is below us and again above us. That comprises of 10 directions. So we would be spreading metta to all the 10 directions. And the importance of understanding the components which we will be focusing: sansaric suffering, sansaric and the disease of samsara, and there's fear of samsara, and again flames of samsara, burning samsara, sorrowful samsara, sansaric raga, and there is sansara, bonds of samsara, an ocean of samsara, and desert of samsara, and finally the darkness of samsara. So there are few adjectives that are being used to describe the word samsara. So here, why is it called samsara and why is it called a suffering samsara? So sara has the meaning value. So if someone is finding something as sara, you are finding it valuable and you find it full of essence. And the sang means raga, dvesha and moha. So raga, dvesha and moha, so raga especially occurs because of attachment. Because of you thinking that there are valuable and things that are full of essence. You think that it in your mind, it is your viewpoint about the world. So you know we can divide the world into 12 parts. Internal 6 internal organs and 6 external organs. So the internal organs are eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, and mind. The external ones are images, sounds, smells, taste, touches, and thoughts. So we know in our initial discussions, we had the idea that to find something blissful, we should have a deficiency in that specific system. Otherwise, we would not be able to have a blissful sensation. So for someone to enjoy food, that person should be hungry. Otherwise, you would not be able to enjoy food, feel blissful while having food. If someone is full, if the necessity to or the urge to have something or eat something is not there, eating becomes a problem and eating becomes a nuisance. So just like that, with that example, you can understand each and everything, even if it's watching something in the television, watching something in the internet, you should have a deficiency towards it. Otherwise, you would not find that interesting. You would not like to listen to that. You would not like to hear, see that. You would not like to smell it. You would not like to taste it. You would not like the touch of it. So the likeness comes because of the deficiency. And yes, it is true that when it comes to our body, there are deficiencies in our body. And this body because of these deficiencies, find certain things as blissful because the deficiency is being treated by those things. But when it comes to mental faculty, when it comes to mind, our these deficiencies we create actually makes our mind vexatious. And to treat this vexatious mind, now we need to associate with the corresponding item that would reduce the deficiency so that we find these items as blissful. So initially when we were born, we had very few needs and necessities. As a baby, we only had few necessities. The warmth and coldness was one of them. Hunger and thirst were few of them. But we did not have any other priorities when it comes to mind. But as we grew, as our minds start to grow, our bodies start to grow, we found toys interesting. So it's a mental deficiency we got after exposing to, we would say, asapurusha sansevana or avidya. So inputs of avidya or shapes of avidya was introduced. Value was introduced to us by external world. So when the value was introduced, we as people, as sentient beings who has avidya or ignorance in ourselves, in our core, we just welcomed it. And we developed that feeling of, we develop the idea that these are valuable. And that itself creates the deficiency and the need to achieve these items. So let's say a small child was not exposed to these kind of uh, inputs. So if the child was not exposed to these kinds of inputs, then he would not find these toys blissful. He would, because he does not have a deficiency. Let's say if it is a different culture, different setting, where toys are not promoted, toys are not seen as a valuable thing. The inputs were not given to the children that these are playful things, things that can make you happy, and these ideologies are not embarked on small children. So if that's the case, however much toys are being sold in the toy shops, nobody would want to buy them. No children would cry asking for toys. So it's the society or the external people and as well as external things that creates this or stimulates our ignorance in different ways that would modify our ignorance, and that modification of ignorance would find these items as valuable, in fact creating a deficiency inside us to obtain these items. So we are creating problems on ourselves because in reality those are just neutral items, does not have any blissfulness in them. Because of the deficiency we perceive them as blissful. So we are actually digging our own grave, or we are actually creating problems for ourselves, and we are solving them to feel blissful. And this is the journey of a normal or a sentient being. So that's why we said it's a sansaric suffering. So you create these things with avidya, with ignorance, and you are looking for solutions. And the solution is always temporary. You buy that toy, or you buy that whatever the item that needed to get rid of the problem. And when that is being obtained, the deficiency subsides. But it comes back again because it's temporary. And you will have to buy these things again and again. This does not solve the problem, but increases the deficiency, the nature or the tendency to get deficient more and more. For example, if you are a person who likes new dresses, however much dresses you buy, however much you earn to buy these dresses, the craving for dresses, outfits does not go away. As soon as it is bought, since the problem is solved for the time being or temporary, you would not feel a problem. But as soon as the time passes, since in reality, since the actual dress did not have any blissful nature in it, it was only the deficiency being treated is perceived as blissful. After some time, the deficiency would emerge back again, because you have the viewpoint that these clothes are blissful and clothes are valuable and good. So if it is good, you want them. So the deficiency is created. So you are earning more, looking for new dresses, buying them, but you are not satisfied in the end. So likewise, you have to see the sansaric suffering and the opposite of it. If you see that there's no valuable or value in these items when it comes to giving bliss, these are valuable in the sense that we can cover up our bodies, we can get protected from the cold. Yeah, that's correct. In that sense, it has a value. But in the when you are thinking of having blissful sensations, being happy, it is not something that can give happiness. So when you understand that, you would use your clothes because you have to, but you would not have that delusional idea that these things can give you the happiness you want. So you would not care. You are not attached. You are using them without attachment. So you have to understand the sansaric suffering, and we are wishing all the sentient beings to be freed from the sansaric suffering. And sansaric disease as well, disease of sansar. What's the disease? So having food or hunger is actually a disease. Since all of us are having that disease, we don't call it a disease. What if only 1% of this 1% of the people get hungry and others were fine without food? Then the others would find hunger as a problem, and they would find solutions for that problem. Only 1% has this problem of hunger. Only 1% needs food. So they would perceive it as a problem and a disease. Since everyone is having the problem, you find it normal. You say that it is normal to be hungry. Just like that, this is hunger for food. You have hunger for images. sounds, smells, taste, touches, and thoughts. You crave for various kinds of things, and these cravings change depending on the inputs and the external inputs that changes the nature of avidya. You would want to attach onto these kinds of things. You would like to perceive these kinds of things, just like you perceive after food or you go after food. So we have different kind of diseases. So what if all the diseases are treated and we know how to treat them? You have to see that the reality behind it, so that the value is less, so that the craving is less, so that the disease is less. So for me and for all the sentient beings, it is we are wishing all of them, including ourselves, to get freed from the disease of samsara. And you see the fear that comes with it. When you are attached to something, since these are impermanent things, that anything can happen at any point, your house, your vehicle, your loved ones, anything can happen to them. And they are impermanent and they are degrading and at the end get destroyed. Everything has a lifespan. So you are afraid, you are in fear. These valuable things, what would happen to them? They can get destroyed. So you are in fear. So the sansari, fear of sansar. And this fear turns into flames when the unthinkable happens. When things go out of the way, when things are happening in a way that you would never thought, when people die, when property get destroyed, when they get stolen, when they get damaged, flames occur. Because they have the nature, they have that nature in them. They have the suffering nature in them. So when you are attached to them, you are a candidate for suffering. You you voluntarily become a candidate for suffering. And that's a problem. You have to see the lesser and lesser the attachments are, lesser and lesser you see that the problem is in you and not in the external world. And the problem is the seeing the delusional blissfulness in neutral things. No, when you see that, when the attachment gets reduced, when your child becomes, or when something happens to your child, the pain is more since the attachment is more, since the value is more. It's a same kind of a child, or the difference is very less, or the, it's a human. Let's say the child has a child is going to the school and there are same children in the same age who has the same abilities and who has the same um, human bodies and minds. So if something happens to the child who is sitting next to your child, then the pain is less, since the attachment is less, as the value is less. So it's the value that and the attachment that causes pain. This is you have to understand the theory. we are not going to get emotional, because emotions are the things that cover up the reality. You have to find the reality. You have to understand the deep truth behind it. When you understand the deep truth behind the attachment, behind you seeing things as yours, valuable, and you seeing things valuable, when you see the problem in them, that amount of suffering that is created would be less, and that itself is blissful. Reduction of suffering is blissful. So the samsaric flames, and it starts to burn because of these kinds of things. So burning samsara, you burn because because of disappointment, because things did not go according to your plan, because the world is anicca, cannot be controlled according to expectations. Even your thoughts cannot be controlled. Even your body cannot be controlled. Then we don't have to talk about the external world. It is the same. You understood, you have the experience now. When you are meditating last week, you are trying to control your mind, but you couldn't. You tried to get rid of raga, dvesha, and moha. You tried to have it concentrated in one place, but could not, because that's the reality and that's the nature of your mind. When you try to control your body, you try to control your body according to expectations. But when someone meets with accident, when someone is bedridden, however much he or she tries to get out of the bed, however much he or she tries to walk, as the causes are not aligning, the effect won't occur. So these are not according to that this does not work according to our expectation. For example, if I give an analogy for this, let's say a person is sitting in a chair or sitting in a driving seat. There's a steering wheel, there's a brake pedal, clutch, an accelerator, and also the uh, other things that are needed for a vehicle to be driven. So everything is there. There's no, you cannot find any fault. Everything is there. But there's a same replica of the controllers behind that original position. So if someone hops in the car or get into the car and start driving, person puts the key and starts the vehicle and start driving. But this is what we think. We are driving the vehicle according to our expectation. But say if someone is behind and the person behind is actually having the wheel, having the control, he's the one who is accelerating, he's the one who is turning the wheel and navigating the vehicle. If that's the case, and in the most of the part, he mimics the person in front. When the person in front turns right, the person behind also, who has the real control of the vehicle, also turns right. When he is turning left, the person behind also turns left. So if that's the case, the person in front would not think that he's not the one who is driving. He would get tricked. and he would think that he's the one who is driving. So this is an analogy. So the person behind is the cause and effect law or paticca. So when the causes align, the effect comes to place. Whether you have an expectation or whether you do not have an expectation is not the case. So when you have the expectation of turning it to the right side, not because you had the expectation, but since all the causes were aligned, it turned to the right side. Since your expectation and the result were identical, or it was the same, your mind would get tricked that you can control your body, your mind, and the external world according to expectation, but you can't. There are instances when you turn right, the other person turns left. Then you end up baffled. You end up confused. You do whatever you can to make it right. So when all of a sudden your hand or your arm does not work, you get baffled, confused, do whatever you can do to get it right. You start crying. Then the burning sansara, the nature of the burning sansara, you can experience it. And the sorrowful sansara is sorrowful because it is because of the disappointments. The disappointments is actually a choice. You thought that this world can be controlled according to expectations. When the nature or when the world shows otherwise, you get disappointed, you get sorrowful. So it's a choice. So you choose to be in sorrow. So what is sansarik raga? Sansarik raga means wandering in thinking that the items or the things that are important. So you wonder. You wonder using three things. Whether you use your body, whether you use your thoughts, or whether you use your words. Those are the three things that you use to wander around. So when you see a beautiful dress, when you see importance, when you see value, your mind starts wandering. That's raga. Whether if it's an image, sound, smell, taste, or a touch, your mind starts wandering initially. Then your words would start wandering in that same direction. You would start talking about that item more and more. So you wander around. And at last, your body also would start wandering in that area, looking for that blissfulness. So raga. And this raga is a burning sensation. It's a vexation. Because you have not achieved it yet. Since you have a deficiency, that's why you are thinking about it, talking about it, and doing everything that you can to obtain it and or to maintain it. So when this is the case, when you have this kind of a avidya and raga, that is a burning and a vexatious sensation. So that's sansaric raga. And the sansaric bonds, you are trapped in this sansara. It's just like a 400-meter track. You know, the circular track which the athlete run, which they use for 400-meter race. So if you run in that truck never ends. You can arbitrarily draw a line and say that I would end here, but if someone wants to end the journey by ending the track, or find if someone is trying to find the end point of that track, that won't happen, because it's a circular track. You won't be able to find the end. On top of that, you have already started this race. You are running an eternal race. This race would never end. And on top of that, Sankara dukkha, Viparinama dukkha, and Dukkha dukkha, that means suffering is chasing after you. There is a bunch of people with swords, guns, and all the lethal weapons coming after you, and you are running an eternal race to get rid of their lethal blows. So this is what happens. That is why we call it a sansara, bonds of sansara, where you cannot escape without the ultimate truth. And again, the ocean. This is seen as an ocean. Ocean is endless. If you are in the middle of the ocean, you don't know where to go. These poor souls, poor sentient beings are helpless without the understanding what to do. They just treat their sufferings temporarily and think that they have achieved bliss, and they stay a calm and quiet life, only to understand that the suffering is still exists. So you see, it's a ocean of samsara, and it's a desert of samsara. Why is it a desert? If you go into a desert, it has the same feeling. There's no where to go. It's the same all around. And it's burning, no water. You feel the vexation, you feel the pain, suffering. In this sansaric journey, sentient beings have the same way, just like a person who has lost in a desert. He's looking for a place, he's looking for water, he's looking for blissfulness, he's looking for good, nice, nice cold environment, but all he gets is heat and dryness. That's samsara. And finally, it's a darkness. So if you have not seen the light, if you have not seen the reality, you are in the darkness, you don't know where you are going, you fall into pits, you fall into traps, you encounter deadly animals, you step on various kinds of poisonous thorns and things, so you don't know where you are going. Helpless. So this is the way you can understand how samsara works. And you are wishing all the sentient beings, including yourself, to get rid of this sansaric journey, suffering, and to attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. So since we are spreading this metta to all the sentient beings in the universe, we are actually spreading the opposite of hatred. We are wishing good things for people, for sentient beings. So if you have hatred, if you have dvesha, if you have conflicting minds, malicious, malevolent mindset, when it comes, if it's prominent in you, in your in your mind, you can use this tool to get rid of that mindset because you are spreading the opposite. It's just like spreading hate. When you spread hate to a person, you think about all the bad things that that person has done to you. When you think about all the bad, negative things that he or she has done, the hate would automatically come. So the opposite is done here. We are finding ways that all me and all the sentient beings, how they have become helpless in this sansaric journey without knowing. So they hurt people, they kill people, they steal from people without knowing the reality, thinking that they are valuable things that they are going after, that they are saving valuable things. So they are helpless because they don't know what is right and what is wrong. They are helpless and they are doing such things. So if we understand that, then we feel sorry for us as well as them. So that's metta. And we are spreading best wishes. We are spreading nibbana to all of them, for us as well as all the sentient beings. So that's metta, the opposite of hate. So after understanding what metta is, we would go to the next aspect or next type of meditation. And this is called asubha. So asubha is used to get rid of raga. So we know what raga is now. We the element of raga occurs because one finds value and delusional blissfulness in external items. For example, let's take our body. So we find our body very valuable. We think that this body is the most precious thing that we can find in this world. You don't care what happens to your property. You don't care what happens to your people around you. But when you are comparing it with your body, if something happens to your arm, that becomes the main priority. If your arm can harm your life, that means, let's say your arm is detached, or it has something has happened to it. Let's say a poisonous venomous snake has bitten your arm and now it is necrosed. Now if you want to survive, you have to cut your arm. Since your life is more important than the arm itself, you would prefer cutting the arm. So like that, the life is the most valuable thing, then comes the body, then comes your loved ones, then comes your property, then comes your fellow villagers or maybe friends, then comes your fellow citizens, then comes the citizens of the earth or people of the earth, and this goes on. It's a hierarchy. So let's take our body and try to understand how asubha is important and how we are in denial, how we are living in delusion. So the in the reality, what is there in the outside world as apo, tejo, vayo, patavi? For simple explanation, I would go for earth, water, then there's fire and air. So these are the four elements that creates the body. So it's not actually that simple. So when it comes to earth, we are not actually talking about the soil or the rocks, but we are talking about the solid nature. It's a nature, it's an energy, solid nature. So when we are talking about water, we are not talking about just liquid nature of or the water, but we are talking about the attaching nature. So bonding nature. So water has the bonding nature. If you put your hand into a bowl of water and take it out, the water is attached to your hand. There's a layer of water in your hand. So it's the nature of bonding. And when it comes to fire, it is not about just the literal fire, but we are talking about the energy, the heat and the energy. So when it comes to air, we are not talking about just air, but air has this quality more. That's why we are referring to air. The heat has or the fire has the energy in them. It has that part enhanced in that element. So we are referring to that as Tejo. But in reality, it's the quality. When it comes to air, it is the ability to move, ability to bend and shrink and expand, the ability to, the mobility, we can call it the ability to move. So that is also energy. So these are the four things that creates up this body. So for easiness, we'll go for earth, water, fire, and air. So if somebody, when we go to the beginning of our lives, so we were a fetus. Before that, we were a zygote. So for this zygote, which started with a sperm and an egg, those were created in our parents' body because of food that were taken, whether it's animal food or plant-based diet. So initially it was started with this. So this Apo, Tejo, Ayo and Patavi came from the external world. So they got accumulated in the womb, and because of the nutritions that are taken by the mother, it starts developing and growing inside. And at the end, we were born as a newborn, and now let's say we might be 30, 40, 50 years old, and we have been doing the same thing, taking food from the external world. And we might have ate several tons of food, but only our weight is only 40, 50, 60 kilograms. So the rest is gone back to the environment. So if you think about it, you had Apo, and the rest of Apo went to the um, went back to the environment. Apo is water. So you took water, and some of that water retained in your body, and the rest went back to the environment. It's the same for earth or solid matter. Took the solid matter, some retained in the body, and the rest went back to the environment. So if you think about it, it was not assigned for you by the environment that this is the solid that belongs to you. This is the water that belongs to you. It was just water is the same. If it is in the environment, if it is in your body, what's the difference? It is in a specific way. It is there in a specific pattern in your body. If it's in a lake, it's the same water molecules. If it is in the body, there's no difference. It's the same water molecules. If the solid particles are in the environment or in the body, it's the same atoms, same things that are there in your body. There's no difference. It's the same for Apo, Tejo, Ayo, and Patavi. So you don't find the water in the lake, in the rivers valuable, but you find the five liters of water that are in your body valuable. You don't find the solid things that are in the external world as valuable, but you find 50 to 60 kilograms of solid in this body valuable, but you don't have any ownership over them. As soon as you die, the water would join to the water, solid part would join to the solid part, and nobody would know which belong to you. So it's a delusional idea that this is mine. It all belong to the environment. And you shouldn't, there's no way that you find any value, importance, because importance in the sense you cannot find any blissful sensation because of that, because it is in the external world or in you, or the things when you excrete which gets back into the world is the same elements. Why are we giving a special value to the water that is in our body and not the water outside? So this is how you would see. When you see it as a one big unit, you cannot see this delusion. You might not be able to find the truth behind this. But when you divide it and see which part actually has the value. So for example, I'll give you another example. So let's say you get a bicycle and you part this bicycle into its smallest part. You get the mudguard out, you get the frame out, you get the cogwheels, chain, and everything, and you are dividing the bicycle into its basic parts. So you find the bicycle valuable, you are attached to this bicycle, you like this bicycle, and you think this is your bicycle. But you are not attached to the cogwheels, you are not attached to the frame, you are not attached to the brake pedals, and there are many more things. You're not attached to any of those. So you have to find the element which you are attached to. So if you deassemble it and try to find, you would not be able to find. And then you reassemble it. And then the bicycle, which you find valuable, would be there. So a part called bicycle could never be removed while deassembling. So you can remove cogwheels, you can remove brake pedals, you can remove whatever part you have, but there's no part called bicycle. And when you reassemble it, you can you can fix the brakes, you can fix the cogwheels, you can fix the chain, and you can fix everything. But there's no part called bicycle. When everything is put in their specific places, bicycle comes to life. When those are changed, or when the positions are changed, there's no bicycle anymore. The same example comes to ourselves. We'll change, or we'll take our hair and put it in a basket, or put it in front of us. We are now in our mind, we are actually separating our parts. So we get our hair and put it in one place. We get our skin and put it in one place. We get our nails, teeth, lungs, heart, and everything, we put it in different places. Whereas us, whereas the one called me, whereas the important part, whereas the part I like, whereas the part I find valuable, nothing is valuable. You would buy 1 kilo of beef, but you would not buy a human lung or a human heart. That is even less valuable than that. So what is the valuable part? So you cannot find it. So that's why when you don't know this, is the reason why the raga, or the value that occurs, creates a vexatious mindset. So when you try to find the valuable part, when you separate this body into its pieces, you would not be able to. But when you reassemble it back to its normal position, there's this beautiful, handsome, pretty person you get attached to. So it's a delusional idea, delusional way of seeing that gives rise to this kind of a mentality. So this is what you should identify. This is what we called Asubha Bhavana, Asubha meditation. So in Asubha meditation, we are seeing the reality of those items that we get attached to by separating them into basic elements. It can be whatever the element that you don't find attached. It can be up to apo tejo vayo patavi. It can be up to the atomic level, whichever it is. A bunch of atoms, bunch of cells, we don't find any value in them. But when they are arranged in a different sequence, when they are put together, we get into this delusional idea that this is valuable. And the valuable is then when, as the delusion is so much, we buy clothes and we wear them and we say that I am beautiful. Not the dress is beautiful, but the self is beautiful. We use perfume and we say that we are smelling good. Not the perfume is good or smelling good. We say that we are smelling good. And likewise, we are tricking ourselves, because in reality, it is a set of organs that would get dirty and stinky if not cleaned every day. It's the reality, but we go back far, we distance from the reality, and we have this idea. And the problem is, there's no problem if it does not cause suffering. But in reality, we are suffering. When the wrinkles appear, when we get old, when our hair becomes gray, since we cannot maintain those things according to our expectation, problems occur. People would get disappointed, people would get depressed, people would get mental diseases because of not acknowledging the reality. So that is the problem. That is why we see the world as we are seeing right now. So to get rid of suffering, this is the only cause, only reason why we are using this method. So that we know that reality is this, and when the reality hits, we are ready and we don't feel any suffering. So that is what we would be practicing. So I think now we have almost discussed this. Uh, Almost the discussion has gone up to 1 hour. So it's time for us to it's time for our meditation to start. So mute all your mics and uh, don't make any sound, so that if the mics are muted, don't make any sounds, because others can get disturbed and disturbed with the noise that is coming from the microphone, from the speakers. So with that small notice, we would go for the meditation session. And initially it would be to calm your mind. So we would be focusing on the Vayo meditation, and then we would go for Metta meditation, and at the end we would be focusing on Asubha meditation, where you would be seeing the reality of the objects that you find dearest. So with that small introduction, we would be starting the meditation session, and be in a comfortable posture. Preferably have your backs straight, so that it is easier for the meditation to happen. And if you prefer closing your eyes, you can close your eyes. Otherwise, you can half close the eyes. Doesn't matter, even if it's opened, but make sure that there's no busy environment in front of you, because it can distract the process. So this would be a guided meditation where I would be helping you to think in such a way the samadhi is building up. So with that, we would be starting the session. Take a deep breath into your lungs and slowly exhale the air with the intention of calming your mind and body. Do this few more times. Now we are going to focus on the quality of air. See that the air is not attached to anything. it moves freely. It does not prefer any place to stay. It just moves freely. When we inhale without conflict, it gets filled with, our lungs get filled with air. When we exhale, the air is expirated without conflict. Focus on the lightness of air. Focus on the non-attachment nature of air. Make your mind like air, where you are not attached to anything. Focus on the quality of air. Focus on the column of air that is moving through your nose nasal passage. When you focus, you feel your body becoming a gaseous body. You feel like air. You feel like floating. If your mind starts wandering in different places, if you hear something and if it wonders, what am I hearing? If your mind gets a new thought and your mind starts wandering in that direction, know that the raga is happening. So you are wondering in a thing that you find valuable. If it is not valuable, you would not bother thinking. So think whether it is really valuable. Go for anicca, dukkha, and anatta, and see the senseless nature. When the value is gone, that input would not bother your meditation again. And if it happens again, do it again. Be like your mind should be like air. You have no specific place to stay. You are just in the mission to get rid of all the attachments. So you should not attach to focusing on the air as well. When you have nothing else to focus, you would end up in the quality of air. Do not try to control, having the expectation that you have to have your mind stuffed in the quality of air. Now we feel like we are having very light and gaseous bodies. We feel peaceful and calm. With this calm and quiet mindset, let us spread metta to all the sentient beings. It is great understanding, wishing them Nibbana, best solution that they can have to this samsaric suffering. When I am reciting this, think with me and focus on these directions and focus on all the sattva or the ignorance that creates pain and suffering in infinite number of sentient beings. Let us focus on all the sentient beings in front of us. Let us focus on all the sentient beings on the either side of the front. Let us focus on all the sentient beings on the right side. Let us focus on all the sentient beings on the either side of the right. Let us focus on all the sentient beings behind us. Let us focus on all the sentient beings on the either side of the back. Let us focus on all the sentient beings on the left side of us. Let us focus on all the sentient beings on the either side of the left. Let us focus on all the sentient beings below us. Let us focus on all the sentient beings above us. Let us focus on all the sentient beings, including myself. All the sentient beings, including myself, may get freed from the samsaric suffering, may get freed from the disease of samsara, may get freed from the fear of samsara, may get freed from the flames of samsara, may get freed from the burning samsara, may get freed from the sorrowful samsara, may get freed from the samsaric raga, may get freed from the bonds of samsara, may get freed from the ocean of samsara, may get freed from the desert of samsara, may get freed from the darkness of samsara. All the sentient beings, including myself, may attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. All the sentient beings, including myself, may attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. All the sentient beings, including myself, may attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Let's focus on all the sentient beings in front of us. Let's focus on all the sentient beings on the either side of the front. Let's focus on all the sentient beings on the right side of us. Let's focus on all the sentient beings on the either side of the right. Let's focus on all the sentient beings behind us. Let's focus on all the sentient beings on the either side of the back. Let's focus on all the sentient beings on the left side. Let's focus on all the sentient beings on the either side of the left. Let's focus on all the sentient beings below us. Let's focus on all the sentient beings above us. Let's focus on all the sentient beings, including myself. All the sentient beings, including myself, may get freed from the samsaric suffering, may get freed from the disease of samsara, may get freed from the fear of samsara, may get freed from the flames of samsara, may get freed from the burning samsara, may get freed from the sorrowful samsara, may get freed from the samsaric raga, may get freed from the bonds of samsara, may get freed from the ocean of samsara, may get freed from the desert of samsara, may get freed from the darkness of samsara. All the sentient beings, including myself, may attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. All the sentient beings, including myself, may attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. All the sentient beings, including myself, may attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Let us focus on all the sentient beings in front of us. Let us focus on all the sentient beings on the either side of the front. Let us focus on all the sentient beings on the right side of us. Let us focus on all the sentient beings on the either side of the right. Let us focus on all the sentient beings behind us. Let us focus on all the sentient beings on the either side of the back. Let us focus on all the sentient beings on the left side of us. Let us focus on all the sentient beings on the either side of the left. Let us focus on all the sentient beings below us. Let us focus on all the sentient beings above us. Let us focus on all the sentient beings, including myself. All the sentient beings, including myself, may get freed from the samsaric suffering, may get freed from the disease of samsara, may get freed from the fear of samsara, may get freed from the flames of samsara, may get freed from the burning samsara, may get freed from the sorrowful samsara, may get freed from the samsaric raga, may get freed from the bonds of samsara, may get freed from the ocean of samsara, may get freed from the desert of samsara, may get freed from the darkness of samsara. All the sentient beings, including myself, may attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. All the sentient beings, including myself, may attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. All the sentient beings, including myself, may attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Try to spread this feeling of metta to all the sentient beings in the universe. It is not about the words, it is about the feeling that we are spreading. Just like we spread hate to others, we are now spreading the feeling of metta without any conditions to all the sentient beings in the universe. Have that feeling in your mind and spread this metta unconditionally. we find value in external objects, in images, in sounds, in smells, in tastes, in touches, and in thoughts. And with this delusional idea of value, we chase after these external items, try to possess them, try to own them, try to control them, but we fail. We created this body to control, to do whatever we want, to live eternally, but we can't control. We would die, our body would get old, we would get diseases, and we forget all of that and live in denial, thinking this body is valuable, thinking that this body is a fortune. But it gives, it increases the suffering, and all we do is treating that suffering all day long. From the time we wake up until the time we go back to bed, we try to treat the suffering nature of our external body, our body. There's nothing we can do about it, but we can stop the pain, the mental suffering it causes because of attachment. Acknowledge the reality. Do what is needed to get rid of the suffering, and acknowledge the reality. When it is seen as a one big unit, we always get deceived by the illusion. So let us divide and see through the illusion, highlighting the reality. There are 5 components that makes our bodies valuable, pretty, and handsome. Skin, teeth, nails, hair. Have yourself pictured in front of you, and try removing these items one by one. And see the delusion, see the illusion for yourself. See whether there is anything to get attached to. Or is it a illusional deception because of things aligning together, giving or tricking us. Kesa is a name for hair. Loma is a name for body hair. Naka is a name for nails. Danta is a name for teeth. Tacho is a name for skin. Have this imaginary self in front of you, and when I recite this Pali stanza, remove one by one, remove these items one by one, and when I say it backwards, fix those items back again. See whether these items have any blissfulness or understand with wisdom that it is an illusion that deceives our mind. Kesa loma naka danta tacho tacho danta naka loma kesati kesa loma naka danta tacho tacho danta naka loma kesati. Kesa loma naka danta tacho tacho danta naka loma kesati. Kesa loma naka danta tacho tacho danta naka loma kesati. Kesa loma naka danta tacho tacho danta naka loma kesati. Kesa loma naka danta tacho tacho danta naka loma kesati. Kesaloma nakadanta tacho. Tachodanta nakaloma kesati. Kesaloma nakadanta tacho. Tachodanta nakaloma kesati. In a similar manner, you can use the Apo, Tejo, Vayu, and Patavi model as well. Focus on Apo, Tejo, Vayu, and Patavi and try to understand that you are giving an unnecessary value to the Apo element, Tejo element, Vayu element, and Patavi element in the body, though it's the same atoms and molecules which are already in the external world. When it is arranged in a specific manner, in a specific place, which we called body, we are tricked, deceived by the illusion. See through the illusion and see the reality. Focus on your breathing once again. Take a deep breath into your lungs and exhale it slowly, relaxing your mind and your body. Now slowly open your eyes. This ends our meditation session for today. If you have any questions regarding today's discussion or today's meditation, you can put it into the chat or you can ask directly. If no one is having questions, I think Miss Champika, you can continue.
How should I say it? Any questions, anybody, anything that you want to clarify? Please put it in the chat box. So please ask directly. If not, we can end the session. Yes, Mark, I can see you have raised your hand. Please ask the question.
We cannot hear.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Is love a form of attachment, or is it something else?
Can you elaborate on the question?
It seems to me that sometimes you would be in love with something rather than be attached to it.
Yes.
Which would maybe suggest a deeper form. Maybe it is attachment.
Yes.
Or is it just a deeper form of attachment? Or is it just a delusional belief in a deeper attachment?
Right. So when it comes to love, let's take children. So here our main aim is to get rid of suffering. So when the aim is to get rid of suffering, let's see how attachment and love, how they works in that scenario. So if somebody is attached, they have, because they find value in something, they get attached to something. So when you have a child, you get attached to that child. So initially, let's say there are children all over this world. So it's another child, or a child that does not belong to you. As soon as it is born, there are a lot of fears, there are a lot of sufferings, there are a lot of things that comes with a child, for the owner of the child, for the parent of the child. He was or she was looking for bliss. Not that it is not blissful, it gives a blissful sensation, that a mental satisfaction that you are having this kind of a child, but it comes with the same technique of deficiency. You should have a deficiency, uh, you should have a inner uh, inner suffering or a vexation, so that it is treated by the image of the child, by the sound of the child, by the touch of the child. It is the problem or the deficiency is being treated, which you would be perceiving as blissful. So that is the blissful part of it. Not that you are not feeling blissful, you are feeling blissful, but through this kind of a mechanism. And the child is a ball of vexation. It cries, you are worried. It does not cry, you are still worried. It eats too much, you are worried. It does not eat, you are worried. It cries, or let's say it is having a disease, or some sort, you are worried. Whatever the thing happens, when the child becomes a bit older, he or she goes to the market and does not come back on time, you are worried. Anything can worry you, make you worried. You hear in the news that your child, or the school of your child has been, something has happened, a unknown gun man, or a person has, there has been a shooting in the school, you are very worried. You heard that your child is okay, and it was another child who had this problem with the shooting, you feel relieved. So it is all about suffering. You you have this ownership on a, as we said before, apo tejo vayo patavi, a combination of apo tejo vayo patavi, and you say that it is yours. True that it belongs, it came from a egg or a sperm that belongs to you. But is it the case? In some instances you adapt, and still you have that feeling of, feeling that it's your child. So it's a delusional idea that would increase the suffering of oneself. That is the problem. Our main goal, our only aim is to get rid of the suffering. So if one is full of, one has created causes for suffering, then you cannot escape from the suffering that it brings. So that's the problem. So when it is about love, it is about deep attachment. So it is covered up with the word love, but it creates more suffering than just small attachment. So when it comes to a loved one, he or she can break our hearts more than a random person, because our attachment is higher when the things do not go as we planned, when the people are uh, cause disappointing actions, cause or betrays us, cheats us, cheats on us, then problem occurs, then pain and suffering. But if that mental bond was not there, you would not feel that pain. If you are betrayed by a random stranger, you would not feel that pain. you would not even remember it. But if it is a loved one you thought yours, and you thought you can control, and you are that belongs to you, then the things go wrong, the things go as out of the place, or the things go uh, uh, without uncontrollable. When uncontrollable outcomes happen, you feel sorrow, you feel deep regret, and that would stick in you until you have that bond. Let's say you break up with that person. Until you really break up with that person and finish with that, until you are done with that person, you would feel that pain, because attachment causes is the cause for the pain and regret and all the negative emotions. So that's the answer. I hope that explains. Oh,
Isn't that what makes, isn't that what it is to be human? Say, if compared to a bird, say, just a songbird, everything it does seems to me, look, it does in the moment. It doesn't really, if it sees you, it flies away. It doesn't think, oh, it's a human, I'm going to have to fly away. It just does it instinctively because it does
yeah.
everything in the moment. Whereas a human has the ability to make a choice, and that comes through an ability to assess emotions.
Mhm.
So being, having an attachment to something is like a form of emotion, surely, a form of compassion. Like, and isn't that what being human is?
Yeah.
Otherwise, you can't,
Yeah, go on.
you can exist in the moment, fair enough, but aren't you only an animal if you do that?
Not really. So when it comes to this animalistic behavior, they actually attach. We can see the attachment in them more than we can see in animals. They are attached to their loved ones, their cubs, or small. If we get a bird, they are attached to the small birds, and they are attached to their partners, and they are very attached to these animals. Have four instincts in their life. One is sleeping, one is reproduction, one is food or feeding, and the last one, the fourth one, is sleep, I think. Yeah, those are the four things that are there in an animal. So since these animals are attached to these four, they would do whatever it is needed. They would kill, they would fight with one another for food. They would do anything to achieve that goal, because they are attached, because they want to control, they want to have these things for themselves. That is animalistic behavior.
So you say that animals just have fewer attachments than humans.
Animals have attachments, and their response to the attachments is the one that says what strength of attachment they have. So it's not about the amount of attachments, but the strength of attachments. So as humans, we might have lot of variations of attachment, but the level of attachment, or the strong bond, is what creates the suffering more. So if it can, you can have 100 attachments, but if they are mild attachments, then you would not have that much of suffering. But if the attachment is more and deep and strong, it can cause more suffering than it can cause in a mild attachment. So when it comes to these animals, those are very strong attachments. They think about a ant. They would kill for each other. This ant would die trying to trying to grab the food that they need. So that kind of attachment is there. They are willing to die. But in humans, if they are good humans, if they have good morals, they would not try go and hurt another soul or take another person's belongings without asking them, or robbing or stealing. They would not go to that extent, because they would not find that attachments that strong. Yes, they would find that outfit in the store very beautiful and very appealing, but they would not steal for it. When you compare it with an animal, it would not care. It would even kill the other one to obtain what they need. So that is the strength of attachment, not about the amounts of, or the several, or the number of attachments one have. So that is the difference. And another important part is, when you have an attachment, the only humans can think and get rid of the attachments. Otherwise, if you have the attachments, then if you get rid of the attachment, you know that when you have affair with somebody, and if it is a toxic one, and if you feel like getting rid of it, and one way or the another, if you manage to forget this person, the pain comes with that, everything just goes away. But for animals, they do not have this kind of a high capacity in their in their minds to do that. So we are actually, most of the time, we are equal with the animalistic behavior. We have dog-like behavior. Even though we are humans, we have those kinds of behaviors. We have uh, foolish behaviors. We have um, various kinds of behaviors that are very similar to animalistic behavior. So when we have pure human behavior, we would always we would always we would always choose right and wrong. We would think critically and do what is necessary for a better outcome. So that is the human nature. But it is not the human nature always. Some people, when they are uh, when they are taking decisions, their decisions are animalistic, animal-like behavior. We would even mention the names of animals. This person did this kind of a thing by mentioning an animal's name. So it is not always about not always humans are acting always human. Sometimes humans are having animalistic behavior, and that would create causes or karmic energy for them to become animals in a next life, if the sansaric journey continues. That's how this cycle works.
Can I ask you something else then?
Yeah.
During the meditation sessions, I kind of feel a tension and a kind of reluctance. I feel like I'm fighting something. I want to get up and run around. And I feel like I'm having to fight that.
You get that feeling of doing something, and can you explain it a little bit more?
I felt it more last time. It's like a gripping sensation, and I didn't want to stop it, but I just felt a resistance to it.
You mean in the meditation session?
Yes, and then I felt an uncomfortable sensation of resistance. And then at some point, I think this time I did manage to overcome it a little. And then
Right.
it seemed to work a bit.
Right. At what point you felt that?
I think it's when I was thinking about the words too much, I think it's best to let the words wash over you rather than think about them intellectually.
Right. So in the initial stages of meditation, since you have the information is new and you are getting lot of new data into in your system, your mind would not get calm and quiet in a it does not happen in a uh, that means suddenly. It takes time. So you get time. You have to give it some time until these things are digested into your system. So this meditation session is actually to guide you to understand what the meditation is about. So that's why, so since this is very systematic, since this is very very it is done in a very systematic way, you have to stick on to that. And if your speed is lagging, you feel that problem when since you cannot you cannot cope up with the speed. So what we do is, usually when you do this kind of a session, you just practice alone, since you have lot of independence or freedom. When you are practicing, when you have lot of freedom, you can experiment and practice, and you have time. You can think in this way and that way, and try to get that feeling. When you are comfortable with that feeling, then that would not be a problem.
Okay.
Yeah, it takes time. Since I was also, when I was starting with meditation, since we have no experience in meditation initially, what happens is we would try to fight with the meditation. It should not be like that. It should be like air. That's why we take the component of air. We are not trying to fight with the meditation. We are not trying to fight with our mind. We are just going with the flow, and we are trying to go deeper and find the culprits or the problems, not trying to fight with. It's not like wrestling with the mind. But what usually happens when we are starting with meditation is, we try to wrestle with the mind. And since the world is anicca, which is cannot control according to expectation, and we are doing the exact same thing inside the meditation. We are thinking anicca and we are not practicing it in the meditation. That's what happens usually when we start with the meditation in the beginning. But when you get the hang of it, when you understand what is there, then gradually you understand how to manage. It's like swimming. So when you just get into the pool, your body all get tense, and you go into the deep and depth of the pool. That means flow of the pool. But when you get the hang of the water, you start to relax and you start to float on the water, kind of a thing.
I see. All right. Thanks very much, Your Highness.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, anybody got any more questions? You're very welcome to type the questions. That's also okay. And if there aren't any questions, then we can end the session for today. So
I think there are no questions anymore.
yeah, okay, then shall we end the session? Somebody typed something. Thank you, Venerable. So what should we meditate, look at when a child appears in a mother's eyes? This is a question about practical meditation methods.
Yeah. So we are trying to get rid of suffering. So we are not going to abandon the child. We are not going to get rid of the child or do things of that sort. We are not going to do those kinds of things. What is there? So we have duties and responsibilities that should be done, because it's our child, because it is the right thing to do. So we would go for the duties and responsibilities, and we would cut off the reasons for suffering. So that is the only difference between a normal person who is having so much attachments with the child, and the person who is doing more than that means all the duties and responsibilities that should come from a parent, but still not attached. That is impossible when it comes to a normal person. But when you think in that way, it would grow to an extent when after this is full enlightenment we are talking about. When you reach the full enlightenment, you won't feel that kind of attachment to even your child, even yourself, or your mind, or your body. Even you don't care about you are not attached to yourself as well. So that is the extreme end of what we are this is the extreme end of our understanding. So initial stages, you try to reduce the attachment level of attachment by seeing the reality. It cannot be done according to your expectations or according to your effort. it should be it should it should be the result of what you do, what you practice. What you are practicing is you are seeing the anicca dukkha anatta nature. You are seeing that everything which if it is created in this world, whether it's a person, whether it's an object, whether whatever it is, if you get attached, then the suffering level of suffering that it creates is a is coming after you. It is only a matter of time until something goes wrong, because you have no control over it. So what you do is I'll tell you a story, a very old story in Buddhist literature. So there was this father, mother, and the son. So they were Aryas. Father and mother were Aryas. So they looked after this child, and he became a young man. And both father and the young man, every day they go to the paddy fields and they work. They are farmers, so they work. One day, the father said, he saw a person coming by, and he said, "This person, tell my wife to not to bring two packets of food, just bring one packet of food." And he also asked the others, the neighbors and the wife also to come with that packet of food. So he went and said the mother this story. So she is a wise person. She understood what has happened. He is telling me to bring one packet. So my son has passed away. That's why he is asking me to bring uh, a, a set of people as well. So they went and they did the funeral, and they buried the body, and they were just looking at the funeral, and they were in there, and a relation of them asked, "Aren't you feeling sad?" This mother said, "I didn't ask him to come. He was the one who decided to come. I didn't ask him to go. He was the one who decided to go. During that time period, I did what I can to feed him and do my responsibilities, or duties and responsibilities towards him. Now he has gone. I don't have any remorse or regret. This is the nature of the suffering samsara." And there was no pain or suffering. Now that is a very high level of understanding. I wouldn't say that you can straight away go to that level, but a reduction of attachment. You you should not get this mixed up with reduction of duties and responsibilities. You are doing them the best you can do. You are helping them to grow as decent human beings, showing what's right and what's wrong. You do all of that things, but see, you are doing them because that is your duty and responsibility, not because you are so much attached to this person. So this attachment actually brings up bad qualities. So this when the parents get if parents get separated, you are attached, so you want this child to be with you, and you try to separate the other parent because you are attached. But if you don't have that much of attachment, you know what is good for the child and what is responsible, you would let the father or the mother to see the child as well. But when there's emotions, when there's attachments, when there's hatred, the judgment is wrong. You would take wrong decisions, and it's always bad for the child when you have attachments, and for you as well. We are not actually focusing on the child, we are focusing on ourselves, and in the process we are not letting anyone to get hurt. That's why we are doing all the responsibilities and duties that are needed. So I hope that explains the explains the and that explains the um, problem or the answer. And the thing is, when you are when you are seeing it from your eyes, what you would see is, you would see the adina, or the negative side of it, of attachment, not the negative side of the child, but negative side of attachment. So you would see that this is a gambling, or a very risky business. If I have created the cause or the attachment, anything can go wrong in any moment, and that is a lot of suffering to encounter. So that is what you should understand. You should see there are various methods when it comes to practice of meditation. You are seeing, you have to see the anicca dukkha anatta nature. You have to see that you cannot control these people or objects according to expectation. And it is just like attachment is just like having poison. It is just a matter of time until the effects of poison comes to play. So it is just like that. So you have to be fearful about these kinds of objects, and you have to know that it is of anatta nature, essenceless nature. Whatever you try, you are trying to protect something, someone that eventually that is impermanent and that degrades moment by moment. So that is what is there to understand. So this is again anicca dukkha anatta. You have to put that into practice, and uh, when you practice it with easier things, you get the ability to do it more effectively. That is called bhavanamaya panya. So when the bhavanamaya panya develops, you would be able to put this practice into these sophisticated and very what you call sensitive matters as well. Initially try to practice it with normal day-to-day things, and you would be able to practice it with uh, these sensitive subjects as well. It says that even if you become an anagami, the bond with children and bond with parents still stays to some extent. So it is a very powerful bond. So it is not easy to get rid of these points as we talk about them. The mechanism or the theory is easy, but when it comes to the practical world, you have to have a lot of wisdom to comprehend that level of understanding. With that, I think that gives a comprehensive answer to the question. If there are more questions about this part, you can ask.
Yeah. So um, then again, there's a chat
For a while.
do I make a resolution like this? Yes, I will do my duty. That is all. And my all is anicca, dukkha, anatta. is this a question that can't be answered simply with?
I cannot understand this. That is all, and my all is anicca dukkha anatta. That part is a bit gray. I would generate an answer based on what I understand from the question. So yes, you are doing the duty. Not that you would be able to get rid of all the attachments with a child in one go. What you would do is you do what is necessary, what is good for the child. The sight and the sight, when you see the child, when you see the sight, you have to see that there's nothing to get attached onto in the sight, because it is just a shape, just a pattern of colors there. When it is sound, it's just sound waves. When it is touch, it is the feeling of solid nature that you feel. But you go beyond that, you get this avidya mindset, and that gives conclusions saying that it is otherwise. But you cannot see that in one go. You have to practice it in that sense, that the attachment leads to this kind of um, um, what you call bad outcomes. So when it comes to practicing this Arya Dhamma, there's this seeing the what you mentioned, by using the sight, sound, and smell, touch, and taste, those kinds, seeing the problem there is one aspect of seeing it. Another aspect is seeing the Adinava, or the fault of getting attached, the level of suffering that you would encounter, and that is another way of seeing it. There are different types of seeing this 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 reality. So you have to use whatever comfortable to you. So yes, you are doing your duty and responsibility as a good parent, what is needed for a child to grow into a decent and normal human being. So when the attachment are not intervening the process, you would be able to do the best for them. Because when the attachments are there, when these emotions are intervening, always sometimes the results, or the decisions you give, or the things that you do can good make can be good for you, for the avidya, but not good for the person who is in the other end. So that's how it goes.
Okay. Hope it answered your question.
Yes, I think this is a very deep discussion we should have on another day, because it's a big topic to discuss, has a lot of small details that can go wrong in a small discussion. So it's better we can have a discussion on this kind of a topic for a whole another day.
Okay. Okay. Seems like there are no more questions, some answers. So shall we end the session for today, please? Teruvan Saranai.
Yes. So today we actually discussed initially about Arya Dhamma, especially about metta meditation and asubha meditation, and and next we conducted the meditation session for about 1 hour, and during that we tried to focus, and our effort was to understand the reality of the world, the anicca, dukkha, and anatta nature, and also to get rid of all the sufferings, attaining the supreme bliss of nibbana. Because we practice that Arya Dhamma, the meritorious power that is generated would create causes for our sansaric journey to end. So, with that great, immeasurable, meritorious power which is created today with these meritorious actions, all the hindrances, barriers, and obstacles that might cover up our Nibbana pathway may get diminished, clearing up our Arya pathway, the eightfold pathway, ultimately attaining the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Accept this blessing with the sadhukara.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
And also in this great moment, let us remind all the sentient beings in this universe. Just like we spread metta to them, let us spread this meritorious power and transfer this meritorious power to them as well, especially our parents and teachers and people who helped us along this sansari journey, people who gave us jobs, people who told us what is right and what is wrong when we are lost in life, and people who reconstructed our workplaces, homes, and surrounding, and people who helped us in various different ways, and also the people who were hurted and harmed by our actions, especially when we were working out of avidya. We did not know what is right and what is wrong, so we always, most of the time, we acted with anger, acted with rage, acted with lust and gratification. So we killed, hurted, harmed people, and we stole and had unethical relationships, lied, slandered, and used harsh words, meaningless language, words, or mischievous thoughts and malicious thoughts and wrong and distorted views. Those were our basic tools of survival back in the day when we did not know what to do to achieve what we like, what we find valuable. But as we have understood the reality, now we know that what we did was wrong, and we see our faults, and we are determined not to do those kinds of faults again. With that kind of a determination, we would remind all the sentient beings that were harmed and hurted by us as well, and also the ones who helped us to have this meditation session, especially the people who created these Zoom platforms, people who constructed these temples, and who donated these tablet PCs and other electronic devices that are used to broadcast this message and to have these meditation sessions. And also the deities and Brahmas in all the realms and planes of Brahmas and gods, and also all the sentient beings in this universe may get delighted seeing these meritorious deeds, these meditations, and may they be happy about these meritorious deeds. If they are in miserable places, may they refrain from doing sins, may they replace those sins with meritorious deeds, and may they lead happy lives, ultimately understanding the reality of the world, attaining the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Accept this with the sadhukara, transferring all the merits to them.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
And I will be ending the session with a blessing at the end, and we will wind up the session with this blessing. Abhivadana series nichang vaddapchayano chattaro dhamma vaddanti ayuvanno sukham balang ayurarogya sampatti sakka sampatti meva chato nibbana sampatti minate samijjatu.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. And many thanks for coming to support us and attending the session, Swami Nohansa. We would like to show our gratitude and respect to you. And I'm going to recite a verse. And if anybody knows the words, please recite with me, or otherwise, please listen. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Silavantang, gunavantang, punyakyatang, anuttarang, durlabene maya lattang, vanditum pasitum varang, sariputtadi teranang, agatam patipatiya, Saddha Sila Daya Vasang Buddha Puttan Namamahang. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you very much, everyone. I will share the recording to the group. Thank you.
Teruvan Sarana, everyone.
Teruvan Sarana.
Sarana.